and I'm into the construction business.
And when did you start the construction business?
It's a bit of a long story. Construction business I did not start until later on. We started first with the subcontractors, that's what we call the sub companies, which is as the joinery, the landscape, the electrical, all that is required within the construction company and it's needed to support it. And then we started the construction company. So it's a group of companies and it's not one company. It's about 9 to 10
9
different
companies
groups
merged together.
Yes, under the name of one group called Arinov Group of companies.
And why did you create your own business?
That's a good question. I love construction. Even though I've been with the armed forces for 30 years, but it has always been my passion to start a construction company. And when I wanted to start it, I wanted to start it the right way. Having studied the market and I've seen the really where the construction companies are really facing problems with was mostly the subcontractors.
What were your aims before the business started?
Of course, to have a very successful construction group.
What were your aspirations?
I have a lot of aspirations actually in this. I'd like to see this company grows bigger and bigger and becomes one of the leading companies in the country. But as I said, and we did not get to finish the answer, when I started this company, I really needed to have the basics first. I did not want to go straight into creating a construction companies without having the subsidiaries which supports it. And you may ask me why. I tell you why. Because one of the biggest problems construction companies face here is timing and quality. Timing is related to all the subcontractors that you will have to depend on during the time you're building the buildings or the houses, the villas, and that's what makes life difficult. That's when all the main contractors are facing problems with timings and also quality. So what I've decided is to create all these things, have them under my control, okay, and then I started my construction company. That way I'm in complete control of what I provide to my customers.
What would you say would be makes your business unique from the other construction businesses?
What would I say that? I'm sorry?
What makes your business unique, different?
My quality and my timing. So that's what makes any business unique.
Future.
And what is what do you hope to gain in the future?
As I say, as far as the concession company, I'd like to have it grow bigger and bigger. And at the moment we are handling mostly villas and we maybe 1 or 2 buildings, but in the future I want to go for something much bigger than that.
Okay.
But the future also holds some other ideas in mind. I might be investing in some other companies as well, but I haven't decided yet.
Advice.
Thank you.
Successful. Advice.
What would be your advice to other entrepreneurs?
Whatever an entrepreneur try to go for a start, they really have to consider what is going on.
Yeah.
They have to study the market very well. They have to study the shortfalls of what is it they want to go into and try to build their new companies on the fact that they have to overcome all those problems. That's the only way they can do it. If they start it and they go through the same problems as everybody else, it's just going to be another company in this long list of failures.
Yeah. So neither. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure.
Okay, so first of all, I'd like to ask you what your name is and what the business is that you started up.
Yeah, well, my name's Ronald Lomedy and I've been the managing director of Sibca now since 1980, although the company actually started in 1977. We basically started off as a fire alarm company, but over the years it progressed into building management solutions and systems, so we grew and expanded the company to its present size.
And when you started the business, what were your aims? What did you want the business to come into from the start?
see, when you really go back to the history, in 1977, Abu Dhabi was a very different place, and it was, you could say, a land of opportunity, and a very different situation from what it is today, where you would find that banks were inviting people to come here and giving them money at very low collateral, just on basically a wish that they would build up the infrastructure of the country. So they were inviting people to come here, and at the time I was working in the UK for a fire alarm company, and there was definitely a hole in the market here for professional fire alarm companies. So obviously the goal of first coming out was to establish a fire alarm company, and in fact we were probably the third company on the civil defence registration in the UAE, and now there's about 350 companies. So we were in at the very early stages, and obviously at that time the goal was to build up the company as much as possible. But Abu Dhabi has a habit of going along in stop and starts and up and down. So when it grows, it's exponential. It grows massively.
Yeah.
So the company went up in leaps and bounds, starting from 5 men to 20 men to 40 men to 60 men to 80 men, to the present strength of about 450.
Okay.
That's where we are today.
Okay. What were your motivations? What motivated you to start an electronics business,
Well,
fire alarm business?
Obviously coming from the background, so I think one of the golden rules is do what you do best. So obviously as a fire alarm engineer, it was logical to go into the fire alarm business.
Yeah.
And obviously motivation always is to try and succeed and make a successful life out of it, and make a decent income, basically. That's obviously, I think that's at the time, a young man's dream.
Yeah.
To look what he will be to the future and how successful he will be. So obviously it started just as a financial gains and reward, and the feeling that you have created something. Over time that changes, and obviously you then have aspirations to see a larger company, to see yourself head of a larger group, and to see it working well below you, that you've established a company that has a background and morals, and something you can be proud of when you look back.
Yeah. While the business was building, did you see the business to grow bigger than you expected? Did you have any future aspirations?
Yeah, well, again, the way Abu Dhabi grows, because during the time I'm here, we've gone through 2-3 wars. So there's been the ups and the downs, the crash of 2008, but the UAE was always bouncing back, so there was always a great potential. At the moment, we're in a state of great changes. You were talking earlier about the size of your school and how it's massively grown. When my children here, there was only the Al-Kabara, and it only went up to the junior school grade.
Yeah.
So now, of course, it's massive growth. So the potential was always here. So it's a question of seizing opportunity, realising what will be, and then planning for that future.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. I'll pass you on to Joy now, and she'll ask you a few more
You're
questions.
welcome. All right,
Thank you.
thanks. Question.
Did you have any doubts while setting up the business?
Yeah, you always have doubts, because when you set up a business, basically you have to take the responsibility on, and that comes in both the form of mentally and financial. So there's always the doubt that will it be successful, will you make a go of it, will you succeed personally, and obviously there is a risk. And for any business person, before you go into a business venture, you have to, in your own mind, establish the fact you are prepared to take that risk. If you're not, do not start a business.
So what made you sell the business?
It's a complicated story, and I don't really want to go into that much depth, but basically we had reached a point where to grow we had to become into a larger corporation. And to be a larger corporation, you have to be part of a local entity. So the next step was now, in future, take it up to being a much larger corporate company. So we basically had come to a barrier, and now we've taken the next step into becoming, you could say, like an international corporation, which over the next coming years.
And do you have any advice for any future entrepreneurs?
Well, like I said earlier, the golden rule is, ask yourself, are you prepared to work hard? Are you prepared to take the risk? And if the answer is no, then don't do it. If you're brave enough, take the opportunity. And as I always say in business, people say it's luck. Yes, there is luck, but at the end of the day, you have to be in the right place to find the luck. So sitting in your chair will not, someone's not going to knock on the door and one day and say, excuse me, I'd like to give you £1 million or dirhams to start a business. You have to be in the right place at the right time and hungry for it. Know when the opportunity is there, that's called luck. And then you take it. So it's not just the lottery, you've got to be in it to win it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Yeah.
Thank you.